Just look at all these selvages. Wonder what we can make with these. I have two pieces of batting that are 7 inches wide and 6 3/4 inches long. I'm going to draw some markings for my reference. On the 7-inch wide side, draw 1 inch down on both of the sides. And then I'm going to draw a 45-degree line. I want to run the selvages across the diagonal in between those two 1-inch markings. I'm lining them up where the selvage meets the fabric, and I'm just going to pin that down. I want to use a small zigzag stitch to sew that down, and I'm sewing along the edge of that fabric. I'm stopping and starting just past the 1-inch marks on the sides. I don't want to go all the way to the edge of the batting. I want to try and keep the strips directional and keep all the wording the same way up. Redraw the 1-inch line down both the sides and cut off the excess. I haven't cut the interfacing underneath, just the selvages, and now I'm trimming off all the excess around the other two sides. Cut 1.5-inch strips. I'm drawing a 1/4-inch line past the one that I've already drawn, so this will be 3/4 of an inch in from the outside edge, and that's where I'm going to line the fabric up against. Make sure that the fabric is right sides together. I'm sewing a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, that's 6 millimeters. I've given the seams a press, and now I'm going to top stitch them down. For top stitching, I like to use this stitch in the ditch foot. It's got a guide down the centre which I run along the seam of the fabric, and it just gives me a much neater, tidier seam. And repeat that for the remainder 3 sides. Trim away any excess fabric. As you can see, I have an overhang of the fabric on all the sides. This is perfect because I don't want the bulk within the seam allowance. I have a 2.5-inch 6 centimetre square, and I want to divide that into 4 equal corners. Measure across the bottom line centrally 1.25 inches, 3 centimetres, and then across the centre line centrally 2 inches, 5 centimetres. Draw out 6 of the shape onto the back of your fabric. I'm using muslin, but you could use any cotton fabric. Lay your fabrics right sides together and pin down, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch around the outside edge within that drawn line, leaving the bottom section open for each piece. And now I'm cutting around that drawn line. Trim the pieces down without getting too close to the stitches to remove any bulk, and turn right side out for each piece. Because these are quite small, to turn them out, if you go from the top sewn edge and just push it all down with your thumb through the hole, and then you can grab the fabric and pull it through. It's just a much easier way for smaller pieces of fabric. Take a needle and thread, and I'm just going in and out twice on each piece. What this will do will help it gather in the centre. Pull them all together and tie off the ends, but don't cut the threads. Cut a strip of fabric 1.5 inches wide, 4 centimetres, and it needs to cover the length of your fabric. Fold the 2 long raw edges into the centre and press them down, and then fold it in half again and press that down. Find the centre of your fabric and mark it, and now lay the folded strip down the centre and pin it down to hold in place. Now take another 2.5 inch 6 centimetre square and draw a leaf shape on it and cut that out. Using a piece of muslin or backing fabric, lay your fabric right side down onto the muslin and draw the leaf template out twice. And sew over those drawn lines. Cut those out all the way around about 1/8 of an inch, 3 millimetres. Cut the backing fabric only and turn right side out. Give it a good press. My sewing machine has decorative embroidery stitches, so I'm going to use it to sew these appliques down. Draw a line 1 inch down, 2.5 centimetres from the top edge. Fold it in half and mark the centre. Measure down 1/2 inch from that drawn line and draw a 5-inch line centralised across the fabric. Take the back piece and rotate it so the side is at the top edge and mark the centre. Lay the fabrics right side together, matching up the centre marks, lining up the top edge with the seam and pin down to hold. Sew all the way around that drawn line, making sure that you pivot in each corner. It's better to use a smaller stitch for this piece. Now draw a line down the centre of the rectangle, stopping 1/4 of an inch at each end, and draw the corners into that drawn line. Cut along that drawn line, cutting into the corners as far as you can go without cutting the stitches. Give the seams a good press and pull the lining through to the back, and give it a good press all the way around the opening. There's a lot of bulk there due to the wadding, so I'm pinning it down to hold it in place. I've cut the zip down to length and I'm laying it underneath the fabric, centralise it within the hole and pin it in place. Top stitch all the way around. To sew down a zipper, ideally you need a zipper foot. It's a double-sided foot, and whatever side your zipper is on, you'll put your needle on that same side. It's a smaller foot and it runs closer up against the zip. Line up the pocket fabric along the top edge and pin it down. Don't pin all the way through to the back fabric, and we're going to sew down all these 3 open edges. So this is where I realise I've made a boo-boo again, and you know I like to keep in the mistakes that I make so that you don't make them yourself. The zipper is sewn in fine, but I've just realised that it's upside down. It's fine the way it is now, but this is not the way the fabric is going to sit. The fabric is going this way round, and the zipper now is at the bottom. I like the zipper tab at the top when the zipper's closed. So I have 2 choices. I can either keep the zipper this way round, or I can flip the fabric around and have the fabric upside down. So I think I'm going to have the fabric upside down and have the zipper at the top. I'm much happier with that choice. Take your 2 pieces of fabric and turn them round so the bottom edges are facing each other. I have a piece of denim that is 7 3/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches. That's 20 centimetres by 15 centimetres, and line that up in the middle. Now flip it over with the right sides facing and pin down, and repeat with the other side. And we're going to sew these 2 seams down. I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. So what I've done is I've sewn the seams down and I've top stitched. Cut the corners 1 inch up from the bottom edge and 1 1/4 inches in from the sides, because we have to allow for the 1/4 inch seam allowance on the side seams. Draw a rectangle 5 inches by 3 inches. And now I'm using a 2 inch radius to curve the corners. You could use a plate or a lid, anything that will draw a half circle. I want a round bottom edge. I'm giving myself plenty of room around the template because this is just a guide. First of all, I'm drawing around the template and I'm using a heat erasable pen, and now I'm adding an extra 3 inches to the top of the edge of the template. The size is 6 1/4 inches long and 5 inches wide. Cut out 3/8 inch 1 centimetre seam allowance all the way around. I've cut out a piece of fusible fleece less the seam allowance, and I'm going to press that on the back. I have a piece of fabric that is 20 inches by 5 3/4. Turn it over onto the back side and draw a 3/4 inch line along both of the long edges. Fold over the edge to that drawn line and then fold it over again, so you're doing a double fold, and repeat that for both of the sides and top stitch those down. Draw a line 3/8 inch 1 centimetre along one of the short edges and fold that over to the back and give it a press. I have 5 pieces of fusible interfacing. Measure up 2¼ inches from the bottom edge and draw a line. Now place the interfacing up against that line and give it a press. Now measure up 4 inches from the bottom of that interfacing and lay the next strip down. Give that a press. Repeat at 4-inch intervals until you get to the top of the fabric. Flip it over to the front and fold over along the top of the strip. Clip those down and repeat that for all of the strips. And now top stitch each of the folds. Measure down 1/2 inch from the top and bring the next fold up to that 1/2 inch mark. We're going to repeat concertina in the fabric all the way down with 1/2 inch increments in between the top of each fold. Cut out lining fabric matching the shape for the 2 pieces. Mark the centre of the fabric and line up the concertina piece with the right side facing up, centering in the 1/2 of the fabric. And top stitch all the way around the square. Cut a piece of fusible interfacing to fit the lining piece. Mark the centre of the lining fabric. And measure up 1½ inches, 4 centimetres from the bottom of the edge of the interfacing. And this is where we're going to place the marks for the magnetic snap. I like to cover up the prongs of the snaps with additional interfacing just to give them extra padding. Lay the pieces right side together and sew the sides and the bottom edge, leaving the top open. Snip the seam allowance on the curve to reduce the bulk without cutting any of the stitches. And flip it right sides out and give it a press. Top stitch all the way around the edge, leaving the bottom open. Take the side with the zipper on and fold it in half and mark the centre. Now take the flap and find the centre of that. Place the flap and the outer right side together, matching the centre marks, and clip in place. Baste the 2 pieces together. Fold the fabrics in half, right sides together, matching any seams, and repeat the same for the lining. Repeat the same for the lining, but make sure to leave a gap so we can turn the bag right side out. Carefully match the seams of the corners and clip. and sew 1 centimetre 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Measure the side of the bag and now measure the same measurement down the flap and make a mark. Match these marks up with the front edge of the bag, and now we have our placement to put the other side of the magnetic clasp. Fix this part of the clasp the same as we did with the other piece. I have 2 pieces of fabric 2 inches by 3 inches. Fold the long edges into the centre on the wrong side and give them a press. Top stitch down both folded edges. I have 2 1-inch 25mm D-rings. Put the tab through the D-ring and top stitch down. Put the bag inside the lining, making sure that the right sides of the fabrics are together. Push down the tabs and clip all the way around the outside edge. Pull the lining and the bag out from each other. I like to join up the corners. So flip the bag over so that the bottom edge of the lining and the bottom edge of the bag are together, and match up the corners and sew within the seam allowance. Find the hole in the lining and berth the bag right side out. It can be a bit tricky, but just be patient. Try not to push too hard because you don't want to rip the seams. Check all your seams and make sure everything is okay. If it is, find the hole in the lining and sew up the seam, making sure that you don't catch the outside fabric. Press the top seam flat and top stitch all the way around the outside edge. Take the flower that we made earlier and sew this onto the front of the flap. I'm only sewing through the denim fabric, I'm not going all the way through to the back of the lining. I have this fabric button that I made, but you could use any button. Sew the button to the centre of the flower to finish it off. Measure a piece of webbing that comfortably fits over your crossbody, and I've cut this one to length. I'm burning the ends so that they don't fray and threading them through the D-rings. Now I'm going to stitch those down to secure. Isn't this just a cute little bag? I love the way that the fabric has turned out from the scraps. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, all of the above. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully I can continue making these videos for you. Thank you for watching. Until next time.